We are about the same at Cottonwood. Guess it will never be anything but a spark, never to become a bright, shining light for God, though I have wished it could be for the last 30 years. Grandpa always had a longing that it might be. Papa did, and I have hoped along with them that it might someday be great. Grandpa silently sleeps there close by. Grandma, Mama, John, Ozella Morris, and so many more that have had a part in keeping it sleep there also. I feel sometimes when I grow so very discouraged that they are calling me, telling me to never let go. But I pray that God's will may be done, whatever that may be. I wonder what it would be like to go to another church, but I know I'll never feel at home like I have ever felt at dear old Cottonwood. It would be like giving a loved one up in death and trying to find another that could take their place. It just couldn't be.
This church was organized in 1908. My great-grandparents and my grandparents were charter members of this church. I just remember my grandfather being a very godly man, faithful, just faithful to the church body, and of course then my parents as well. The number of people who were attending, I know it was just always a fairly small group, but we just got together and opened the Word, and we never considered whether or not we would get up on Sunday morning and be at Cottonwood Baptist Church. There was a time when there were so few people coming here that the adults just became very discouraged and they stopped coming. But there was, I believe there was 5, possibly 6 young people in the community that had grown up here at the church and just determined that we would continue coming on Sunday mornings. Hear the word of the Lord. Johnny B. and I went to Sunday school this morning. We were the only ones there, but we sang 2 songs, read the lesson, fixed out the record, and put it on the record board. We put in Ermanel and Orville's $15, and Johnny B. put in $25. The record read, 2 present, $15.25 offering. Oh well, that will be better than nothing at all up there next Sunday. I really don't remember how many weeks that went on, but I don't ever remember that we missed a Sunday. And of course the time came when, of course some of those adults were my parents, but in time they came back as well as the others, and we still were very few in number, but we had little spurts of growth. Most of our pastors were either from Southwestern Seminary or some from Howard Payne University. Just precious, precious, precious people. I'll never forget those people. Some of them just getting started, many of them, this being their very first church. But as they finished their schooling, they went elsewhere. I remember times when I would be so discouraged and so down. And I remember that Mary Gray said to me one time, I believe with all my heart that in time, in His time, God will reward the faithful few. Before Mike and John Ann came, we were still very low in attendance. In our worship service, I don't even remember, seemed like maybe 30, 40 max would have been just a very large crowd. We had just heard about Mike through a friend of his who was pastor at Selden Baptist Church. And as he came, I remember we liked him a lot when we first met him, and were very, very excited that he accepted the call.
When we were called to Cottonwood, asked by the church to be their pastor, I made it very clear to them that Johnny and I would be here 18 months, that we'd finish seminary and we'd head back to the city to plant churches, which was a dream of mine since youth. And then in 1987, February of 1987, God just got a hold of our lives, and God just did this new work in us. And in that process, died to every dream and vision and thought that I had, that God had for us, for ministry. And we decided to stay and pastor these 30 people, 40 people the rest of our lives. We literally thought that that's what would happen, that we would pastor a small group of people. Cottonwood is definitely in the middle of nowhere and saw no potential for growth. So in that process, died to visions of church growth, growing ministry, all the things that I thought that God had for us.
When Mike came, I felt that I was learning more and growing more and being more encouraged through the Word and through Mike's leadership than I ever had before. And other people began to come and stay.
Dying to those dreams brought a freedom in my life, a freedom that I began to share with people, a message that I began to share, that Christ comes into our lives to take away our sins, to crush the head of the enemy, to destroy his works, and then to conform us into his image. That Christ comes to be glorified in our lives. And so this, in '87, became about the glory of God, about God being glorified in a people, about God being glorified in a very insignificant place.
I do remember after Mike had been here for a while, I was the Sunday school secretary, and I kept all of the records. I counted everybody who was here, class by class, and you know, when we all came, we had 13, 14, maybe 15 in Sunday school, and sometimes we'd make it up to 25 or 30 in church. And I remember Mike coming into that little office where I kept those reports and asking me one Sunday, "What do you think could happen as far as a goal? What do you think could happen?" He said, "Well, you think 50? And I said, "I don't know, Mike. I just don't know about 50.
In 1999, or actually 1998, I met Mike Stroud and invited him to come to our church for an all-day missions conference.
I had a friend with me, and we drove up in front of this little church, and I turned to my friend and said, "Nothing's going to happen here today. There's going to be a bunch of blue-haired ladies, and we'll preach and talk about missions, and we'll walk away." And little did I know what was in store. There was a people ready to hear a message of God and His glory and His purpose through the church being accomplished.
He came and he challenged us. And when he came, he didn't come with a program or a mission ministry. He spoke of the pursuit of the glory of God to the ends of the earth. And we'd been talking about God's glory. And so when he actually challenged us to pursue the glory of God to the ends of the earth, because in so many places in the earth, God was not worshiped.
I had said something on that Sunday that I think has really become truth for Cottonwood. I said, if we will just pitch ourselves toward God and His purposes at the end of the world, He'll fill up everything in between.
And so we asked the body, where is God sending you? Are you to love a neighbor across the street or across the border or across an ocean? And missions is increasingly just becoming a part of who we are at Cottonwood.
It seems like everything that has happened here that has been so wonderfully awesome, like our mission program, like the growth of the church, like our youth ministry, like our Awanas, all of those things, as they began to happen, just knew that God was in it. that He was leading us right along.
This is only the beginning. And as we've been asked so many times, what could God do through a group of people who believe? This is a part of a legacy that's much bigger than Mike Fritcher, much bigger than Cottonwood, much bigger than the name Baptist. This is about our God fulfilling His purposes, and we will walk with Him in that legacy as far as we will believe.